G'day all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. We're back on the internet today. We're talking Britany Higgins, Bruce Lehrman, and more recently, this case with her former employer, Linda Reynolds, who has been vindicated in court for not covering up the allegations of rape. For those of you who don't know, who've been living under a rock or live in a different country, Britany Higgins and Bruce Lehrman case has been all over the news for the better part of 4 or 5 years. And essentially what the case is that Bruce Lehrman is accused or was found guilty, to my understanding, of raping Britany Higgins after work drinks in their work office in Parliament House. That's what it is. And so this has been dragging on for years. So let's get into it.
So long to admit to her lies or apologise for them. Today she did issue a statement that still admitted nothing except that she'd hurt Reynolds. She said, "I was 24 years old when I was sexually assaulted in Parliament House. 6 years have passed, years marked by challenge, scrutiny and change. I accept that Linda Reynolds' feelings were hurt by these events, and I'm sorry for that. I wish her well for the future."
She doesn't wish nothing. She was on a campaign for whatever reason it may be, to destroy her former boss. There's a lot of collusion going on with other female senior Labor leaders. Higgins doesn't even realise that she was used as a complete puppet for the media, for Lisa Wilkinson to grandstand and stand up and be a real champion of this sort of thing, which spectacularly backfired on her, and she lost her job at Channel 10 and on the project, and I think she got stung for the order of about $1 million in legal costs for trying to defend that position when Bruce Lehrman took them to court for defamation. So I want to talk about this case and what I've just sort of thought about it as it's gone along. Only those two people truly know what happened in that room. I think that this sort of crime is horrendous. However, while Bruce Lehrman doesn't do himself any favours, right? Like he's out there going to strip joints and who knows what he does. He's getting on the gear, and now he's gotten himself entangled in some other case where he's been accused of rape. He's not helping himself out here for his image. Obviously not. He's probably a pretty sleazy, unscrupulous kind of guy. That's the way that I'm seeing it. On bad decision making. Like, this dude's making bad decisions. He's essentially had his life ruined by this whole case that's happened. So they didn't find him guilty through evidence. It was guilty through, he was most likely to have done it. That's more or less was the conclusion there. So let's talk about it. So essentially what happened here is they went out for drinks, right? Young people, she's 24, who knows how old he is. He was a bit of an up-and-comer at work. He was probably bit of the office sleaze bag. He was out with this young chick who's a grad, amongst other people in their work circle, right, in their team or whatever. They're out getting pissed. He's buying her drinks, plying her drinks. He's trying to get some action, right? He's been a bit of a good old sleazy corporate guy. We all know people like that. We all know them. They get a couple of beers into them, right, the work event, and they're just trying to get some action. So good old Bruce here has a couple of drinks. He's not thinking straight at all. And he suggests to Brittany when she's hammered, hey, let's go back to the work office. Red flag number one. Right, red flag number one. It's a pretty cliche. Let's go back to the office and just get it on, right? That's what you would think. You think beyond a reasonable doubt, if someone said to you after a night out drinking, if a man said to you as a woman, come back to my work office at whatever time it is, you'd have to have a bit of a flag that something's going on here. It's a bad decision making, even if she wasn't keen on it. So they go back there and they get it on, all right? And whether or not it was consensual or not, well, no one will ever truly know. There's a lot of takes out there. The take is that she banged Bruce Lehrman and she regretted it. He's like a sleazy dude at work. People were going to find out. She was also found at work in mourning by a security guard. She went DEFCON 5 because she had a boyfriend at the time, to my understanding. And they came up with this story. Now, that's one of the events, one of the conspiracy theories out there, you could say, whether it's conspiracy or not. these things would happen a lot. And I'm not saying it happened with here. And the other one is, yeah, he did that. He took her there and he took full advantage of her and all that sort of thing. Okay, that's what he's been found guilty of doing. But what doesn't sit right with me was, obviously it's been leaked now, all the conversations with journalists pitching how they're going to message it in the media, all the conversations with the media as well, how much money and how they're going to pitch her and all that sort of thing as well. And the way that she sort of grandstanded throughout the whole thing as a pariah, coming out and making these huge statements to the media, making posts on social media when she was told, do not do that. For me, look, it's just someone who got caught up in the whole spectacle of it as well, wanting to be a voice and all that sort of thing. Now, if she was raped, like, you never really know. Who knows? They have no hard evidence on it. They have a lot of hearsay, and the jury made that determination. Now, once again, I'm not saying he didn't do it. Like, as I said, he ain't helping himself out. There's all those stories out there that when Channel 7 or whatever were trying to get him to do the spotlight expose, that he was, going to strip clubs and, getting on the gear and all that. And there's been all these stories over the last few years of him doing dodgy shit, stealing cars. Okay, so he's a loose unit. Brucey is a loose unit, but he's probably got nothing to lose anymore. He doesn't care. He ain't getting a job like he had previously. It's never going to happen again. He's out of politics forever. Name has been smeared. No one's going to take him seriously or want anything to do with him. Persona non grata. So if this is not true and this didn't happen, absolute travesty for him. But as I said, he hasn't helped himself as well. We'll keep going, and I'm going to keep ranting about it because I've got a lot more to say about this, but I know I've only been on this video for 20 seconds and I've ranted on for 7 minutes.
My family and I now look forward to healing and rebuilding our lives. Well, Reynolds wasn't hurt by events, but by lies. Higgins. Joining me is Chris Merritt, Vice President of the Rule of Law Institute of Australia. Chris, great to see you. There was no cover-up of Higgins' rape, says the judge. This is a devastating judgment against Higgins.
I want to talk, before we start with that, right, and I know I'm stopping quite a bit. So for people who don't know, so Linda Reynolds is a senator here in Australia, and Britany Higgins was a staffer working in her office. And so what they're saying here, and what the accusation was, the false accusation, which has been proven now in court, was that her boss, Linda Reynolds, tried to hide the fact that this had happened, this incident with Bruce Lehrman, and tried to sweep it under the rug and silence her, which is being determined to not be the case and anything but she was trying to assist her. This whole thing just smells to me. All the dirty politics that Britany Higgins is playing, and she's getting in touch with all these senior female politicians and scheming in text messages and all that sort of stuff, which you see that have been leaked. I don't have that particular footage, but you would have seen that on the news. And her boyfriend or husband, this David Shiraz dude, scheming behind the scenes to blow this up, to make this huge media spectacle. There's a lot of politicking, a lot of dodgy stuff going on here, in my honest opinion.
And it's the second one to make that point. This is exactly what Justice Lee in the federal court concluded as well. It's also devastating for the media. The media, if they read this judgment, there are page after page after page of falsehoods, untrue statements that were related by Miss Higgins to the media, various outfits in the media, which formed the building blocks of the cover-up, and the cover-up which Justice Toddle, like Justice Lee, has now concluded just didn't exist. It just didn't happen. But you've got to.
So that's the Linda Reynolds, right?
to look at that judgment also.
So I want to say something. I'm not a real fan of this person. There's just something about her. It's not because she's a woman and because, she had this incident happen and she's out there talking about it. And it's not that. It's just something dodgy about this whole thing. There's just something about her. It's off. She got paid something, a very quick payment as well by the government. So we paid for it, the taxpayer. It's like $2 million or $2.5 million to settle the case. Just to shut up, go away. I would like to know all the checks and balances that happen there and who's doing all the approvals there for that sort of payment. Like tax-free, by the way, because it was for damages and it was for her career because now she could no longer work in her chosen career in the public service. And she's gone off and then she's become a media sensation, selling her story to the media. And keeping this gravy train going. Didn't disappear or anything like that. Coming out, making sweeping statements. I don't know. It's just, for me, it wasn't because she's a woman or anything like that and all that. Like, I think absolutely if this is true, because it hasn't been without a doubt proven that he did it. It's just that it's likely he did it. And so therefore he's guilty. If it is true, I'll eat my words. But there's something just dodgy about this whole thing. And I can't be the only one thinking that. I can't be the only one thinking that, sitting at home and seeing all these, curated media engagements that she's doing. The way that she's been used by the media, used by Lisa Wilkinson as well. Because Lisa Wilson wanted to come out and make this huge story. And it was about Lisa Wilkinson becoming... getting more of the limelight on her. She's advocating for this, the next sort of Grace Tame kind person. Now, Grace Tame was a rape survivor who became a speaker type thing. So they could see that. So she wanted to get in on that gravy train. And what happened there was, you will see, I think I do talk about Lisa Wilkinson, but Lisa Wilkinson came out against the advice of her employer and identified Bruce Lehrman before the public knew about it, before he was identified, and put his name out to the country as a rapist when he hadn't been proven or guilty of anything. And that's where all this stuff started blowing up.
Oh, and it's a big insight into where Miss Higgins got this idea from. The judge, Justice Tottle, points to the fact that on Miss Higgins' own evidence, she was profoundly influenced by the ABC program, the Canberra Bubble, and she subsequently coloured, that's the term that the judge used, coloured her story about what happened to align with the ABC narrative, which didn't, the narrative from Miss Higgins didn't have any substance. So that's the root of the problem, and that's the lesson for the media. This was a young woman who was clearly traumatised, and the judge does make the point that allowance does need to be made for inconsistencies in the evidence of sexual assault victims about the sexual assault. But he also made the point that trauma does not explain the subsequent untrue aspects of her story about a cover-up.
And for me, that's a huge red flag, and I think it undermines the last 4 or 5 years, in my honest opinion. So you've been caught telling egregious lies, literally destroying... I said I don't know nothing about Linda Reynolds, but she's a senator. She's been building that career her whole life. To come and basically destroy her career to the media, right? That's what happened. She was persona non grata. She got to the point where she ended up in a hospital due to mental health, due to mental illness, due to all this stress and pressure that the media was putting on her because of what Britany Higgins bullshit that she made up. So what else has she been lying about? That look, I'm just being a reasonable person here. You've gone to the point of lying, trying to destroy somebody's career. What else are you lying about? Like, as I said, I've got a theory, and I've heard this theory around, and I think it's a reasonably sound theory. I think on a balance of probabilities, I guess it's like a 50-50. Either he did it, or she slept with him and realised She needed to lie to cover it up because she wanted to protect her job. As I said, she was found naked in the office by a security person. She's a young woman. She's going to start crying grape to try and get out of any sort of accountability because her career would be done. She'd be sacked. That's it. And so Bruce Lehrman, if this is if this theory is true, he's been dragged through the courts and life ruined by this whole thing as well. And he continues to fight it. But as I said, on the other side of that coin, Bruce Lehrman is not painting himself as a stand-up guy. I can tell you that now. He's out there doing all sorts of dodgy shit. So I don't know, Bruce. And I said I'm not sticking up for Bruce here. I'm just standing back, looking at the facts not even the facts. Who knows what's a fact? It's on the news. Who knows? All right. Like as I said, she's been proven of lying for the last 5 years. So I'm standing back and assessing the information, and I'm making my own call on it, looking at it with a critical eye. That's my thoughts. Who knows what really happened?
And they were immense. She speculated. She convinced herself that there was a cover-up without regard to the facts. That's what the judge found. And this is the story that the media picked up and ran with. And it also became the foundation for a substantial part of the payout that the federal Labor government made to Miss Higgins, not for the rape, but for the way this incident was allegedly handled by former Senator Reynolds. Now,
I don't think anyone's even questioned it, right? Because this guy's tiptoeing around it. He doesn't want to say, it puts into her story into disrepute. That's the thing in this country as well. And as I said, that crime is horrible. But people are guilty before they've even been put through the court system and sufficient evidence has been put forward to actually convict them. So it's just believe him straight off the bat. I don't know. It's a bit sketchy, this whole thing.
The latest judgment, Justice Toddle's judgment, says that there is no evidence, there was no mishandling of this accusation, of this incident by Senator Reynolds. And he also makes the point that Senator Reynolds it was perfectly legitimate for Senator Reynolds to raise the nature of the payout when she knew that substantial parts of that payout were based on accusations that were simply untrue. That's in this judgment.
I know. You put it beautifully. Well, the judge did too. I mean, essentially, really, Chris, what you've said is...
So did you say, I want to talk about that statement as well that she made. There was no sign of apology. There was no admission of wrongdoing. Complete dodging of accountability whatsoever for the damage she's caused her former boss. Think about if that happened to you at home. Think about if someone at your work had gone and done this and you have been put out of work essentially, your whole career has been blown up. No one wants to take you seriously. You are a witch hunt after you. The media's after you. You've done nothing. You didn't do those things. Think about that. Very serious thing to do. And in my opinion, she should have paid more than that back. $340K. She should pay back all the $2 million that she was given. Who signed off on that? $2 million. We paid for it. I didn't approve that.
That Britany Higgins saw an ABC program which smashed the Liberals, this terrible treatment of women, and she essentially wrote herself into that script.
Yep.
And the ABC, loving this story that it in fact prepped her for, ran with it unquestioningly, and doubled the damage on poor Linda Reynolds, who today is vindicated. And Chris, like you've raised before, raises big questions about the Labor payout, the Albanese government's payout, $2.4 million of our money, and whether we'll ever get it back. I suspect not. Look, Chris Merrick put it extremely well. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, let's watch one more. All right, let's watch one more.
To the fallout from Linda Reynolds' win against Britany Higgins yesterday. Now, Higgins has to pay Reynolds more than $340,000 in damages because she lost this defamation case. Then there's also legal costs. And the Australian reports this could put at risk Britany Higgins' $2.4 million Commonwealth compensation. Now, covering this case for The Australian has been senior reporter Paul Garvey, who joins me now. Paul, thanks for your time. So could Britany Higgins now have to pay the equivalent of her compensation payout from the federal government?
It's certainly easy to see how it could get to that level because obviously there's that headline number of 340,000, but really that's going to pale in comparison to the legal costs incurred over quite a long and ugly and brutal courtroom battle. The conservative estimates that have reached me have been in the vicinity of $700,000 to $800,000 per side. Others are saying it would have well and truly gone into the $1 million+ mark for at least one of those sets of legal representation. So you add all those things together, and Linda Reynolds herself said after the verdict yesterday that she had spent millions of dollars on her various fights. You can see how quite...
They should, in my opinion, she should be made whole. She should be made whole. She was, once again, by the media here, by Labor, by the ABC, she was burnt at the stake, essentially. And now she's been spending years and probably a lot of her money. Obviously, she's wealthy. She can afford to pay millions of dollars in legal fees. Well, it's just been proven that she was right the whole time. She's been incorrectly vilified by the media. There should be a bigger compensation than that. Well, what about her not being able to work as a senator anymore? I don't know if she's still doing it or not, but there's got to be some sort of impact here, some sort of compensation, let alone just $340K. What about all the legal fees? I reckon Britany Higgins, she should be just like she did to, she got her hand out from the government. Well, that should have come back now. She stuffed around and found out. She should have just disappeared, gone to France or whatever it was, because she bought some stupid, not stupid, but she bought some, place in France, and she became a media darling, right? And all her life was there. And you don't get put on the media unless, you're a lot of the time you're agreeing to it, especially by talking. So it's just someone who's tried to stay relevant and didn't want to fade off after this whole thing. Should have just taken the $2 million and pissed off.
Quite quickly, the 2.4, or at least whatever's left of that 2.4, could well and truly be sucked up here by the settlement and those legal costs.
And I think Higgins, from memory, she received about 1.9 million of that 2.4 because about $500,000 went in legal costs. So I think that was what was reported. And then they bought the house in France. They've sold the house in France. So
I don't think they would have made much money out of that as well. And, it looks like she's been having quite a good life, a great big wedding, all that sort of stuff. So she definitely treated herself through there. So just how big that pool of money, we don't really know. The other big unknown, though, is just how much of that wound up in the trust that was set up soon after that settlement, and then what will be the legal process to actually access that trust. And
anyway, I'm not going to keep going on with this, but this whole thing, as I said, the whole saga that I've been talking, it just doesn't now, especially now. I'll be rolling my eyes at it the whole time anyway, especially every time she got in front of a camera. That's just me. Once again, it's not because I don't like women and I don't believe women and blah, blah, blah. There's just something stank about this whole thing. It's been proven that something definitely did stink. And this is only the small part of it. I think the whole rest of it should be questioned, in my opinion. Do you think if this dude, Bruce won, and then it turned out he did something similar, he was caught in all these big lies, to be all over the media saying, this needs to be re-examined, the case needs to be reopened because he lied here in such a big way and was found guilty. What else was he lying about? It'll be on. There was a huge pile on that guy, and probably deservedly so. As I said, he didn't help himself. As I said, he hasn't helped himself in any way. And any little thing he does, the media picks up on it, and it's all over the news. And people just don't like him. He's got that sort of look to him that he can be pretty unlikable. All right. Thanks all. See you in the next video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.